And we'd like to ask you, it seems that the direction that we are taking now is to hold bilateral talks with China with regards to the issues of the West Philippine Sea. Do you think that this is a sound strategy?
Well, to me, the best for the Philippines is multilateral, and using as our leverage the decision of the arbitral tribunal. In fact, a lot of countries are saying, why not maximize our victory in the arbitral tribunal? However, since the President has decided to also enhance our relationship with China, and there are benefits accruing, which is very obvious, perhaps in the meantime, that can be a very good approach. The question now is, when will the bilateral discussions start? Because the problem with China is they always, the strategy is to delay the start of the bilateral discussion.
Sir, how about because the DNT Secretary just said that China is moving for more build-up in other islands there, and that it would mean that the military might act on it. Do you think, in any case, how ready or how prepared are we to deal with that kind of issue?
There are two aspects that we have to worry about. The first one will be the further militarization of the 7 islands, artificial islands that China built, especially the 3 ones with runways, Subi, Fiery Cross is the biggest, and Mississippi Reef, which is within our exclusive economic zone. They have already installed defensive equipment there, and the worry of many experts is that when you install defensive equipment, defensive weapons, the next step will be offensive weapons like medium-range missiles that may reach other targets within the South China Sea or even beyond, as a way of denying access to other forces, particularly the U.S. Navy forces in the area. The second worry would be Scarborough Shoal. Scarborough Shoal, I've seen the master plan of China on Scarborough Shoal, big construction around Scarborough Shoal, and this is quite a big facility if ever they would get to that, because the facility, the lagoon is almost as big as Quezon City. It's about 150 square kilometers, and there are rocks all over. And they can, again, the master plan includes runways, buildings, tourism facilities. So if they succeed in doing that with a civilian component there, that place will be very difficult to attack. So the analysis is that if they start constructing there, that will be a red line as far as the U.S. Navy is concerned. And I think even us, from the body language of Secretary Lorenzana, I think he is saying that there should be no construction there because that is too close to home, too close to comfort. And if they succeed in militarizing and in constructing in Scarborough Shoal, they will be able to complete what is called the strategic triangle that will give China almost complete control of the South China Sea. The strategic triangle will have 3 points. 2 are already existing. The first one is Woody Island in the Paracels. The second one is the cluster of artificial islands in the Spratlys. One is Mississippi, Subi, Fiery Cross, and the others. And the third one is Scarborough Shoal. That is the ultimate objective, and I think the other powers would not want that to happen.
Yung katapang na paninindigan ng TNT, Ramon Matos Wilson, yung may epekto na ito, mas iba na yung statement na naglalabas sa foreign ministry ng China. Ngayon sinasabi nila, they do not want war. It is not in the best interest of the world na mag-gera doon?
Well, we have to look at a series of statements. The first one is the statement of now Secretary Tillerson, Secretary of State, during the confirmation hearing, where he said that the U.S. will block China from access to their artificial islands. And this was reiterated by Press Secretary Spicer during one of I think in his first formal press conference at the White House. However, in the recent visit of Secretary Mattis in Japan, while he mentioned that the U.S. will defend Japan, will defend the Senkakus from any aggression by China, he suggested that there should be negotiation instead as far as the South China Sea is concerned. So these are two different approaches. You have the defense statement, and the other one is the state statement. Now, which one would prevail? I don't know. But of course, the later one is the statement of Secretary Mattis, the Defense Secretary.
Yung travel na ginawa ni Ate after nalo si Trump, hindi ba may connection sa bulong ito with China?
No, definitely. I just came from Japan. I was given a good briefing, series of briefings by the Minister of Foreign Affairs. On their invitation, they invited me as a special guest of the Japanese government. I was given a briefing by the Ministry of Defense. I was given a briefing by the Cabinet Office, which is the office directly supporting the Prime Minister. I went there in the office of the Prime Minister. And definitely that swing, starting with the Philippines, followed by Indonesia, Australia, and Vietnam, is to strengthen the supposed alliance as a counterbalancing force against the aggressiveness of China, especially in the South China Sea. So definitely, the Prime Minister Abe is acting as a bridge between, especially in the case of Philippines and the United States. I think because of the very good relationship between Prime Minister Abe and our President, President Duterte, it is very obvious from my point of view. This is not coming from them. This is my own assessment that the strategy of Prime Minister Abe is to make sure that we stay within this alliance.
So is there a way, us being a weak country in terms of military might, how can we possibly hurt China in a way that would make China rethink their strategy towards its actions in the West Philippine Sea?
Well, right now, militarily, we cannot hurt China. In fact, I just read in the papers today that Secretary Lorenzana already submitted to the Chinese government a formal request for military equipment, the precision, special precision munitions, part of the $14 million grant offered by China, plus some fast boats. So that's welcome. To me, that's good. I just don't know whether China would allow this. So it's been submitted to them, and it's subject to their evaluation. How can we hurt China? Right now, because of the friendship that the Duterte government is trying to promote, and I have no objection to this, no, as long as this will not compromise our claim, our victory in the arbitral tribunal. As long as we don't forget that China continues to claim practically 90% of the West Philippine Sea. So the only way that we can hurt China is, of course, to be with the U.S. and Japan-led alliance in the event of conflict.
maliban po kay Pangulong Duterte, may iba po pang leader bordering, bordering with China na naniniwalang Chinese the future.
Well, right now, that seems to be the consensus in the world. But how far is that future? I don't know. Malaysia is already showing some body language to tilt towards China, and because of that, they were able to get as much as a $34 billion package. This was announced. I don't know how much of that is grant, how much of that is loan, just like the $24 billion package that we got from China. Vietnam is continuing with their classic balancing act. While they are beefing up their defenses, they already have the 6 kilo class submarines. They have missiles from Russia, and they're already manufacturing their own missiles. Their pilots are being trained by India for the use of their Su-30s, and their Navy, their submarine group is also being trained by India, which has already, is very familiar with the Kilo class submarines. But at the same time, the Secretary General of Vietnam just visited China, so it's a very good balancing act. They also augmented the defenses of one of their islands in the strategic area. We, in our case, were very worried about enhancing our runway in the Pag-asa Island. Because it might antagonize China. But in the case of Vietnam, they did this, and they're not worried about antagonizing because of their very good balancing act. This is something that we must learn from Vietnam. Vietnam has the savvy to do this because they've been dealing with China for thousands of years. They're quite familiar with China. They were once conquered by China. They have fought wars against China even before the Spaniards came to the Philippines. They fought in 1979, land war. They fought in 1988, sea battle. But they continue with their diplomacy, but they also continue with their confrontation. So these are the things that we have to learn from them.
Ang Japan mag-i-increase ng defense budget. Don't you think dapat ang Philippines sumama na rin sa trend?
In the case of Japan, they announced the increase in their budget. Their budget for the past year was $42 billion. I think they're increasing it by about 5%. They ordered 42 F-35s, and they're really beefing up their defense equipment, especially in the Okinawa, Senkakus, UFU area, because that is where they intend to make a stand to prevent China from breaking out of the so-called First Island Chain, which is a line from the Philippines, the west coast of the Philippines, into Bashi Channel, that's between Taiwan and Batanes, and then going to the Miyako Strait area. So, nilalaki na rin yung budget nila. Yung 42, because of the manufacturing capability of Japan, they took delivery, I think, of 4 F-35s, but the rest they're going to manufacture. Mitsubishi will be the one to manufacture. So they have a first-class military capability. I think they can deal with China in a military way.
Magkano ho ang ideal budget dapat in proportion sa GDP ng bansa, ang budget ng Pilipinas?
Well, kanya-kanya nga eh. Ang pinakamalaking proportion, ang US, o malaking US, no? Some are saying 2%, 3%. Our GDP is almost $300 billion. So pag sinabi mo 2%, that's $6 billion. 6 billion times 50, that's about 300 billion pesos. Yung last modernization act natin, I was still a congressman during that time, 75 billion over a 5-year period. So kita mo naman.